This is the 2013 Wake County School Board District 2 Candidates Forum, presented by the Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce, with coverage provided by the North Carolina Center for Voter Education. Moderating the forum is Tommy Broadwell, Executive Director of the Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce.
Tonight we have the two candidates for District 2 seat on the school board, Monica Johnson Hostler and Matt Scruggs. Monica, would you start?
Sure. Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Monica Johnson Hostler, and I'm running for the Wake County School Board representing District 2, which many of you know encompasses the most southeastern part of Raleigh, all of Garner, and the eastern part of Fuquay-Varina. And so thank you all for holding on tonight and sitting through this and hoping to engage with you tonight. As many of you have heard, I am the executive director of a nonprofit over the last 12 years. Which entails me raising money, managing a budget. I'm also a mother and a wife of a high school teacher. And I am running to ensure that we have quality education for all of our kids throughout District 2. I'm also running to ensure that we support teachers, and lastly, to amplify the voice of parents.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Scruggs. I am also running for the school board here in District 2. Before I get started, I would like to thank my wife, who is at home this evening, to allow me this opportunity. And I'm sure that Monique was probably thankful for her husband as well. I appreciate everyone coming out this evening. I look forward to the questions and getting the opportunity to answer those. I am a businessman. I work for an auto parts company here in Raleigh. It's based out of North Carolina. I'm used to working with budgets, payroll, cash management, different things. I come at this from a business perspective. My parents, my mother, my father, and my stepmother were all teachers, so I am familiar with the education world. I think that we both agree. We are running to make sure that all students in this county and our district get a fair and equal opportunity at a great education. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, you're up. And y'all have answered this question, but I want you to expound on it. What motivates you to run for position on the county school board?
That's actually an easy answer. I'm a parent. I have two beautiful daughters. I want to make sure that they have the same opportunities that I had with the education that I got here in North Carolina. I really can't expand on that. I'm a concerned parent. My parents were always involved with my education. I see this as my opportunity to be involved with my daughter's education as well. Thank you.
Like Matt, we're both parents. I have a third grader who's taking her first end of grade testing beginning tomorrow. And so, again, I'm in this because I'm a parent. But I'm also engaged in this because I want to advocate on behalf of parents. I want to ensure that parents' voices are heard throughout the school system and that we narrow the gap, hopefully to eliminate the gap, of communication between parents and schools. Already having a daughter enrolled in school, I know the importance of parental engagement, but the first step is to ensure that the parents have the information they need to ensure that their children are successful in Wake County Public Schools. Got to get the hang of this too. Thank you.
Question 2 is, how does a school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden?
So we have to pay for our children's education. While that may be difficult and it absolutely will cost us as individual taxpayers and homeowners, the reality is in order to give our children a quality education and the growth that we anticipate and are experiencing, and many of the candidates before us have talked about that significant growth, we're going to have to pay for it. Every child has to have a seat to receive a quality education. And unfortunately, it is a tax burden that we're going to have to pay for and endure in this country.
Yes, our taxes do go towards education. The majority of our taxes go towards education in this state. I'm sure that we're going to get to this question later. We're going to be looking at the school bond this year, and that's going to be a huge increase in our taxes. And I will say that as a conservative, I do not agree with tax increases. I don't like it. I think there are better ways to fund education. There are. Johnson County has proven that. I look to seek for those ways and not raise. I'm a member of Fuquay. I live in Fuquay. And we've not had tax increases in 12 years. And I don't want to be a member of Fuquay that raises taxes on you. I think there are better ways to do it. I think we need to better utilize the tax dollars that we've got going into education. And I think that that's why a business background will help do that. Thank you.
What is your opinion of the amount of academic testing our children are subjected to? Is it too much, too little, or just right? And how can we balance this against the call for greater creativity and self-expression in the classroom?
One of the most interesting things my mother ever told me was when she decided to retire from education, because she was told by her superintendent that it was not her job to teach children anymore. It was to follow a curriculum. And I think that's pretty sad, because that goes towards the teach to test mentality. We are failing our students when we teach for them to take a test. And that has a lot to do with standardization. Now, don't get me wrong, there need to be standards that we strive for. I can tell you that I do not agree with Common Core standards. I think that it's just another federal program that's going to fail our students eventually, just like No Child Left Behind. I think we need to get away from the teach to test mentality. I think I wouldn't say it's necessarily a matter of too many tests. I think it's the issue of that's what we teach to. And it's great that we have students that pass those tests, but then you ask them basic, simple questions that we grew up being tested on, and they can't answer those questions, and I think that's a shame. Thank you.
I agree with Matt. We should not be teaching our children to a test. Again, I mentioned my daughter is preparing to take a test tomorrow. My husband is a high school teacher. As a nonprofit director, I manage staff and I do ensure that they have accountability. So while testing is not what I'd like for our teachers to be working towards daily, I do recognize and respect the fact that we do have to have some accountability measures. It is extremely important that our children have the fundamentals of reading and math. And, you know, I tell people all the time, I remember taking the CAT test in North Carolina. I didn't know at that time it stood for California. But in the third grade, I remember taking that test. And so, again, while standardized test isn't the way that teachers should be driven, it is a reality in terms of accountability. And I want to ensure that we do not increase the testing, but recognize the need for testing to ensure our kids can meet the basic standards and needs before leaving elementary school.
Many people feel the Wake County school system is too large and needs to be broken up into self-administering smaller districts. What is your opinion on this issue?
I'm coming from a small town that does not have a large merged school. I actually see both the benefits and the challenges that it brings to have a large school system. I was born and raised in Thomasville, North Carolina. My husband likes to say that we have one high school, but we're not merged with Davidson County. That would give us 4 more high schools. The challenges that exist when you have a large school system, such as Wake County, is just that. It's large, the growth is going to be continuous, we know it's going to be significant. But I think the opportunities we have is the investment in per child that we can invest in terms of dollars to ensure that our kids have the resources that they need. One of the other challenges of not having the school systems merged is the fact that we are integrating and having our children in communities working together. I think that's a large part of creativity and innovative as we prepare our children for a global society, is to ensure that they understand the perspective, regardless of where they live, the importance that a quality education is going to be required in this global economy.
I would also say that there are benefits and consequences of splitting into smaller districts. I know that here in Fuquay, a lot of its students have basically felt like they've been left out in the cold for years now. The school board has done a horrendous job of, doing anything for our students down here in the South. That being said, I think that our school board needs to do a better job of looking at every part of the county. The issue with splitting into smaller districts is cost. We're already talking about how are we going to afford a better education for our children. Why are we going to start compounding different issues that are going to cost more money? I would rather put that money back into education, put it towards our kids.
You said it was coming. Here it is. Do you support or oppose the current bond referendum proposed by Wake County School Board, and why?
No, I do not support the bond. I would say I'm the only candidate that does not support the bond. I could use 2 hours to go over with you the reasons why. Several being that if you look at the estimation of the growth throughout the past, it's been overinflated. In 2006, they said we were going to have 175,000 students by this year. I believe after the 20-day, the estimate is going to be 152. We're almost 25,000 students off. You know, look at the estimates that we're looking at now. If you look to the figures where if we put 25 students in every classroom, I believe are the figures in this county, we could seat 205,000 students. Where are we going to grow that 50,000 students in the next few years? I don't see that happening. That's one reason. One reason is, you know, times are tough for people. I know I can't afford an additional $300 or $400 this year in property taxes. I am the only candidate that I know of that does not support the bond. I know the bond has a lot of support from most people. But what I find interesting is that I have knocked on over 600 doors in the few weeks that we've been running. That's been my focus, is getting out to meet the people. And what I have found is that the people do not support the bond. Thank you.
Matt is correct, at least for me, I do support the bond. And also knocking on hundreds of doors, especially for Garner. And so I will speak for that community who has been the most crystal clear in the need for the bond. The first parent's door I knocked on, the first thing they said is, did you know that my child was going to be going to school in an old movie theater? Did you know that there are 40 kids in one class at Garner High School? Did you know it's busting at the seams? That was before I even said my name. I just said, good evening, And she knew, and she wanted to talk about the fact that she had 5 kids in the Wake County public school system, and growth was the issue for her. And she went on to recap how initially as parents they became okay and comfortable with their kids being in schools in trailers. And she just kept saying to me as we wrapped up our conversation, don't forget that our kids are going to school in a movie theater, and that feels to me as a parent as if someone doesn't care about my children. And as I knocked on other doors, we continued to hear the exact same dialogue. They wanted to discuss classroom size. They wanted to discuss how they would understand whether their children had school that didn't have the capacity for internet. And so while the bond does include growth for schools like Garner that need the capacity for their high school at their high school level, it also includes renovations and upgrades that are necessary for our children to be able to have access to technology and high-speed internet. And some of our buildings currently don't have the infrastructure for that. So the bond also includes those things, and those are the reasons that I agree with the bond.
What do you feel are the top 3 challenges facing the Wake County School Board, and how can you help provide solutions for them?
I think one of the issues is how we engage and work with our parents and our community members. I think it's important that we hear the voices of not just parents, but those who are in the community that support our school system and our education system. Knocking on the doors around Falcon Park, there were many adults who said to me, I don't have kids, but I still care about what's happening in the school system because these kids are going to have to take care of me. And so it's very clear that regardless of the generation, people care about what's happening with our education, and they care about that they are engaged and have the communication. And so running a nonprofit and representing a program in all 100 counties, it is my experience that we listen, ask the right questions, and take that back to the board. And so running a nonprofit gives me the similarities of a school board in that they're programs that give us their information, they give it to our staff, and our staff gives it to me as the executive director, and I relay and work with our board of directors to make those determinations. And I'd like to ensure that those communications lines stay open with community and parents, but I also want to be clear that there is a superintendent, and it is important that we also respect the checks and balances that are necessary in terms of the infrastructure of the school system, which is also something that I feel like I can bring to the school board, being a director who reports to a board of director and understanding what that structure looks like and who has the checks and balances. Secondly, the reason why I initially began to engage is because I do run an organization, and I feel like there are innovative ways that we can, for instance, with teacher cuts, I think that's going to be a huge issue with us. There are innovative ways that we can look at our budgets. I do it every day. I run a nonprofit. There's a 6-month gap between getting federal funding into the state of North Carolina, and you have to be innovative and creative and ensure that you're planning for the future with your budget, but that you also understand that there are going to be strategies that you need to implement. And so one of those things for me is working with principals and the superintendent to ensure that schools know how to use different pots of money, especially to ensure that we have teacher assistants in the lower grades.
You said 3, correct, Tommy?
3 challenges and solutions as well.
All right. I think one of the biggest challenges is our school assignment issue. I know that we flip-flop back and forth every single time there's a majority change. I still don't think we found the right answer. I think that that is a part of the issue with busting at the seams. You know, we have schools here in Fuquay that are at 40% capacity that would beg to have those students. I think you can fix that in school assignment, then you don't have to worry about spending $810 million to build schools. Now, I do understand that there are renovation and other things that go along with the bond as well. Next, I would say that quality education across the board. You know, we have 3 foreign languages at Fuquay High. I understand they're not in my district, but I still care. It's part of Fuquay. As where, you know, you have schools across the county that may offer 6 or 7. I don't think that we're doing a great job as far as what we're offering to our students across the board. And I think we need to take a look at that and work on that. And last, I would say the civility and the politics on the school board itself. We've seen what's been going on for years. It needs to stop. It's not about who's in charge of the board. It's not about whose politics are, you know, in charge. It's about the kids, the teachers, the parents. And I do agree that I think teachers are going to be a big issue as well.
How much influence should special interest groups have on decisions relating to curriculum and materials used for students' instruction?
None?
Thank you, Matt.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's great to always hear new ideas from different avenues, but I don't think that anyone who's implementing any type of curriculum in our school system should be worrying about who's going to be greasing their palms.
I agree. There shouldn't be any. Living with a teacher, changing curriculum every year. I will say for teachers, they tend to not know where those things come from because their job is to ensure that they're teaching those kids every day and meeting those standards. Special interest groups, we live in America, they have a place. It's not our school system. Our school system should be driven by parents, educators, and the community. And so I think that that's our priority, and it's extremely important that all of us remember, in order to have a quality education for all of our kids across Wake County, that those are the 3 ingredients we need: students, educators, and parents.
Preparing students for America's jobs of the future is a national priority. What will you do to increase and improve student access to computers and other classroom technology that will help with that priority?
Again, I spoke to one of the priorities for me in the bond issue hearing from schools who don't have the capacity is their capacity to actually use those computers once they're in the classrooms. They need the technology to ensure that they can use it. It's great if it turns on, but if it doesn't connect to the high-speed internet, which for even those of us who don't love technology, it is our reality. There are companies based right here in our back door that communicate with people globally every day. So it is going to be necessary that our kids know that having a computer in their classroom and ensuring that it connects to the internet is a useful and necessary tool to ensure that they're ready for the next steps. The other thing I think that's extremely important in preparing our kids for the workforce is bringing our workforce to our kids. I just met with a couple of schools today in my professional career to talk about leadership development in our schools. How do we bring new innovative jobs that are based here in our communities to ensure that these kids are prepared for that? There are many, many employers that still exist that want to have access to our kids to ensure that they know that these jobs are here in their communities and are invested and willing to invest in them as community members into those schools. So I think those are things that we need to do to ensure that our kids are prepared for the workforce, but also have access to the workforce through our community's members.
Could you repeat the question one more time, please? I'm catching you off guard.
Preparing students for America's jobs of the future is a national priority. What will you do to increase and improve student access to computers and other classroom technology?
All right, so I'm a full-time college student. I'm taking my classes online. So there are no textbooks, and I know that that's where we're headed, and we do need that technology. Now, I know that $72 million in the bond does go towards that technology, whether it's putting tablets in students' hands or new computers. I would say against that, there are ways to do it without having a bond. There's groups out there that donate tablets. The Bill Gates Foundation donates tablets throughout California. It's donated to another county here in North Carolina. Why pay for something if we can reach out to those? But we do need to get that technology in our students' hands. We do need to worry about where they're headed in life. I think one of the great things that we've got coming are CTE schools. And I hope if you're not familiar with those, that you will research those tonight. We're going to be able to give children an education. We're going to give them a diploma. We're going to get them certified in whatever type of job that they're interested in. And because of the amount of businesses that are going to be working with our CTE schools here in the county, they're going to have a job. And I think that a lot of people forget that not every child wants to go to college. Not every child wants to be a doctor or a lawyer. And we do need plumbers and technicians, automotive technicians. They're going to have a culinary school at the one that's opening up in close to the Garner area. I'm pretty excited about that. I think that I would like to see some type of measure. We talk about measurements. We talk about testing and how well our students are doing. Well, what are we doing to measure the students once they leave our schools? Are we even looking at that? Because if we're not looking at students once they've left our hands, then we're failing them. We need to know, what are they doing? Are they going to college? Do they have a job? Did we meet any and every way that we could to help them in life? Thank you.
One last question. And this pertains to what you just said. How can the board know if its goals are being accomplished and its policies are being carried out?
Well, everyone knows that the first line of measurement are test scores. I think that they're important for our students when they're there. Like I said, I think that we drop the ball when it comes to our students leaving the school system and not making sure that they're set down the right path, that we've succeeded their hopes, their dreams. I think that there's other avenues as far as measurement goes. I think that I do love the idea of merit-based pay for teachers. I think that our good teachers should get paid. I think it would allow competition for teachers who want to get there, to seek different avenues, different certifications, things like that. I think our teachers, if we don't invest in our teachers, we're not investing in our students, period. The problem with merit-based pay at this time is we have a broken system. There's no way to effectively measure our teachers. You'll have teachers that they get measured based on their students' test scores or what they're capable of doing. Well, what happens when the teacher before them wasn't able to connect with them in some way? Well, now that teacher is being graded upon what another teacher could not do. But I would like to try to implement new ways of looking towards that to help our teachers out. I think that's very important. By measuring our teachers in ways that will benefit them, it benefits our students. And if we can do that, that's excellent.
Well, thank you. Thank you both.
Oh, come on now.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. Tommy, I think you're tired. I completely understand. It's okay. It's okay. Completely understand. I completely agree. It is measurements. Again, as I stated earlier, I think testing is necessary in order to know what the outcomes are. Every input has an output. In order to determine if that output was successful, we have to measure it. And so that does mean that we need to measure what our where they are. I think there are extremely important pivotal points in a child's life. When they leave elementary school to go to middle school, are they prepared? That's a benchmark that we can begin to set early. We know that we test them in 3rd grade. Let's look at where they are in 5th grade. Let's look at over the course of those years where those kids have changed and where their gaps are, so that we know that when they do move to the next phase of schooling, that we know what those gaps are. Teachers are already at a place where they know how to individualize student learning plans. And that's what those measurements will give us for those teachers, is what does that particular child need? The same thing is true when they're leaving high school. I do believe that we should be measuring, are they going to college? Did they graduate from a school with a trade? Especially with our early colleges, are they getting jobs soon after? Those are measurements that we can capture. Those are measurements that many schools have. We just need to aggregate the data to really take a look at, are we measuring the exact correct outputs to ensure that our kids are successful?
Thank you very much. Let's give them a hand.
This has been the 2013 Wake County School Board District 2 Candidates Forum, presented by the Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce, with coverage provided by the North Carolina Center for Voter Education.